Hello and welcome to the Combination Prevention modules of the Healthcare Service Delivery chapter of the MSM Implementation Toolkit, or MSMIT, a tool that offers practical guidance for implementing comprehensive HIV and STI programs for gay, bisexual and other men who have sex with men. This training is brought to you by MSMGF, the global forum on men who have sex with men and HIV. This module introduces HIV testing and counselling, which is one among the 7 HIV combination prevention approaches presented in this module. It is listed with the others here for your reference. HIV testing and counselling, which is commonly known as HTC, is a fundamental combination prevention strategy, as well as the entry point for HIV care and treatment. Given its importance, we will discuss it in detail. First, we will present the different kinds of HTC. Next, we will look at the detailed steps entailed in preparing for and providing HTC services. By combining personalized counseling with knowledge of one's HIV status, HTC can motivate behaviors to prevent HIV transmission, and persons living with HIV can access supportive counseling, community care, clinical care, and treatment for opportunistic infections. Ideally, voluntary HTC services should be provided free of charge or easily affordable as frequently as required, and at times in locations that are convenient. Testing and counselling services should adhere to the principles of the 5 C's, which are consent, confidentiality, counselling, correct test results, and connection to follow-up services. They should be delivered respectfully and without coercion, judgment, stigma, or discrimination. There are 4 main types of HIV testing. They are 1. Voluntary HIV counselling and testing. 2. Provider-initiated HTC. 3. Couples-based HTC. And 4. Self-testing. Let's look at each of these in detail. The first type of HTC is voluntary HIV counselling and testing. This is HIV testing that is passively offered and the client seeks out the HTC service. This service can be located in a variety of settings, including the community, clinic, in a mobile services program, and at home. This type of HIV testing and counselling may be a preferred method for hidden populations and more cost-effective in settings with low HIV prevalence. The second type of HTC is provider-initiated HIV testing and counselling, also known as PITC. This type of testing occurs when a healthcare provider offers HTC as part of a routine clinic visit. Its intent is to reach greater HIV testing coverage as well as to normalise HIV testing behaviour. PITC is recommended as long as it is not compulsory, is not coercive, and is linked to treatment and care in line with WHO guidelines. Providers should pay careful attention to providing accurate information. Informed consent must always be obtained, and results should remain confidential. The third type of HTC is couples-based HIV testing and counselling, or CHTC. CHTC differs from standard HTC in that instead of an individual, a couple receives pre- and post-test counselling, including the results of HIV tests together. Some advantages to testing couples together are listed here. CHTC seeks to interrupt HIV transmission in serodiscordant couples, to help seronegative couples negotiate plans to remain negative, and to link seropositive couples to care. It also facilitates communication and partner support. HIV testing and counselling for couples or partners should be offered to anyone, regardless of how they define their relationship. The principle and the policy should be that providers support all people in a sexual relationship to receive testing as a couple, irrespective of their sexual orientation or the length or stability of their relationship. The fourth type of HTC we will discuss here is self-testing. HIV self-testing is a process whereby an individual either sends a sample away for diagnostic tests with results given by a service provider, or tests the sample with a kit and interprets the results himself. HIV self-testing enables individuals to test themselves for HIV in private settings. By providing an opportunity for people to test themselves discreetly and conveniently, self-testing may increase testing among people not reached by existing HTC services. Note that HIV self-testing does not provide a definitive HIV diagnosis. A reactive self-test always requires further confirmatory testing according to relevant national testing algorithms. Now we will turn our attention to HTC service delivery, which happens in two stages. First, a set of preparatory steps are required. Next is the actual service implementation stage. We will present both in detail, in order. Here is an overview of the steps that comprise the preparatory phase of HTC service provision. They are two. 1. Generate community awareness and demand. 2. Train providers and outreach workers. 3. Procure essential supplies. 4. Track data. 5. Ensure quality assurance mechanism. And 6. Manage services. The first step required in preparing to provide HTC services is to generate community awareness and to build demand for services. Community members should be informed about the benefits of knowing their HIV status and about the availability and benefits of treatment if they are HIV infected. Even with awareness-raising activities for the general public or key populations, MSM may not know about the availability of services that are respectful to them, nor about the existence of trained and qualified providers who are sensitive to their needs. As part of awareness-raising campaigns, MSM should be informed of their right to confidentiality and consent, as well as their right to refuse HIV testing if they choose to. The second step in the HTC services preparatory phase is to train providers and community outreach workers. Training for HTC providers is essential and should follow national and international standards and is covered in detail later in this module. Establishing accessible and relevant locations and timings of services is the third preparatory step in HTC provision. Both the location and the timing of voluntary HTC services should be responsive to MSM community needs and requests. In some settings, particularly for MSM, who are sex workers, this might mean providing services during evening hours or on weekends. For details on possible community settings for HTC, which may be more attractive than healthcare institutions, see the information on mobile service delivery presented later in this module. The fourth step is procuring essential supplies. Procurement of supplies to conduct HIV testing is usually done by the agency or organization providing the services. A program serving men who have sex with men that wishes to provide on-site voluntary HTC should work with local health authorities to obtain training and authorization to provide HTC, as well as the needed supplies. Procurement should be guaranteed for quality-assured diagnostics. It may be helpful to obtain handouts or other informational material about the importance of HIV testing to distribute to MSM. Data tracking is the fifth step required in preparing for HTC service provision. HTC providers should receive standardized training on data capturing, including logbook and other form completion, aggregating totals and frequency of data transfer, data and personal information safety and security, how to make referrals and follow-up linkages and data quality checks. The sixth step is quality assurance and quality improvement. As part of their training, providers should learn about HTC quality standards, what they are, why they are important, and how to implement them in their daily work. Topics such as proficiency testing, use of algorithm diagrams, and timer battery backup supplies should be incorporated. Ideally, the program partner should conduct routine quality monitoring visits with immediate on-site feedback to HTC providers so that quality improvement plans are developed on the spot. The seventh and final step in preparing for HTC service delivery is management. Please see Chapter 6 of this toolkit, which presents program management in detail. Once the preparations are made, implementers can move into the next stage of implementing HTC services, which is program delivery. The steps of HTC delivery are presented here. They are 1. Pre-test information, 2. Post-test counselling, and 3. Repeat testing. Adequate training, ongoing performance support and monitoring are essential for all staff performing HIV testing at the community level, including health workers, programme staff and community outreach workers. Because voluntary HTC may be more acceptable to men who have sex with men when the testing and counselling are performed by fellow MSM, community outreach workers can form an effective part of the voluntary HTC workforce. We will now go through each of the HTC programme delivery steps in detail. The first step of HTC delivery is to provide pre-test information. This is done through counselling that is provided before the HIV test is administered. The pre-test dialogue should focus on basic HIV information and information about the HIV testing process and reiterate that HIV testing is voluntary. A risk or sexual history assessment may be taken at this time as well. This should be voluntary and should only be done if the HTC provider has received training on how to conduct the discussion. The second step of HTC delivery is post-test counselling. This is counselling that is provided when the client receives his HIV test results. HTC offers a valuable opportunity to provide accurate information about safer sex and harm reduction that is relevant to the person being tested. For MSM who are found to be HIV negative, post-test counselling is still important. Risk reduction information specific to their individual risks and based on a voluntary risk or sexual history assessment may be offered. They should also be given access to condoms and lubricant and to other potential preventative services such as behavioural interventions and pre- or post-exposure prophylaxis as appropriate. Providers should ensure post-test counselling for individuals who test HIV positive. Post-test counselling must include support concerning disclosure of HIV status. These clients should receive immediate care, confirmatory testing as appropriate, and additional screening and treatment at the clinic or at a referral hospital or other clinical site. They should also receive supportive counselling about how to avoid transmitting HIV to others and information on how to access community care resource organisations. Programs serving men who have sex with men should take extra efforts to support links to care, such as identifying a trusted peer or community outreach worker to accompany HIV-positive men who have sex with men to care, support and treatment services. However, this should only be done with the individual's consent. Mental health issues such as anxiety and depression should also be assessed if the counsellor has been trained in these areas. Referral to a clinician with training in mental health may be helpful. We present mental health in Module 4 of this chapter. The third step in HTC delivery is repeat testing. Sexually active men who have sex with men should seek retesting at least annually and more frequently if there is the possibility of exposure to HIV. Situations and settings where retesting is warranted include men who have sex with men who engage in high-risk behaviours, have a partner who is known to be high-risk or HIV positive, or have clinical indications for retesting such as a newly acquired STI, and if an individual can identify a specific instance of HIV exposure in the 3 months prior to HIV testing, such as an occupational exposure, unprotected sex with a person known to be HIV positive, or sharing injecting equipment with the person known to be HIV positive. Note that the World Health Organization specifically recommends repeat testing after 4 weeks for men who have sex with men who test HIV negative if they believe they may have been exposed to HIV within the past 3 months to ensure that they are truly HIV negative. This concludes the HIV testing and counselling module. Be sure to go through the other HIV combination prevention approaches presented in this module.